1st century AD, the heyday of the Roman Empire, the strongest empire of its time. But did it lead Rome to collapse? The period of the Roman Empire's heyday, spanning the times from the 1st century to the early 5th century CE. In the 1st century AD, Rome was the administrative and cultural center of a vast empire covering territories from Britain to Egypt and from Spain to Mesopotamia. Imperial buildings such as the Forum of Rome and the Colosseum served as symbols, not only of architectural splendor but also of the power of the Roman state. Military victories, such as the conclusion of the Punic Wars in the 3rd century BCE, and expansion to the east, including the conquest of Greece and Egypt, led to the establishment of Rome as the dominant power in the region. During the formative period of the Roman Empire, against the backdrop of the republican system of government, key figures who laid the foundation for the greatness of this mighty empire stand out. In the history of Rome, Gaius Julius Caesar remains one of the most influential politicians and strategists. In 49 BC, after successful military campaigns in Gaul, Caesar crossed the Rubicon and began his march on Rome. This moment, known as the Rubicon Crossing, records the beginning of the civil wars, culminating in Caesar's installation as dictator. But his reforms centered on redistributing land to veterans, establishing colonies, and introducing calendar reform. Rising to the highest office of dictator, Caesar made significant changes to the system of government, steering the country toward a new era. However, his authoritarian style of government and attempts to give himself unlimited power sparked opposition, leading to a tragic outcome in March of 44 BC. After the assassination of Gaius Julius Caesar, a period of political struggles and civil wars in Rome began. One of the key figures in this period was Gaius Octavian Augustus, 63 BC, 14 AD. Coming to power as the first emperor of Rome, Gaius Octavian Augustus contributed significantly to the stabilization of the state. After the Battle of Actium Cape, 31 BCOS, which ended a period of civil wars, Octavian became the de facto sole ruler of Rome. Known as Augustus, he established the Principate, a new form of government that combined elements of the republican form and the personal power of the emperor. His administrative reforms included strengthening the power of the Senate, creating a police force of praetorians, and developing Rome's infrastructure. Augustus continued the expansion of the Roman Empire. His armies conquered new territories in Spain, Gaul, Germany, and the East. These victories strengthened the Roman Empire's position as a great power. These personalities had a profound effect on the structure of the state and laid the foundations of the imperial system that led to Rome's long-term prosperity. In the period following the death of Gaius Julius Caesar and the establishment of the Principate under Gaius Octavian Augustus, Rome entered a new phase of its historical development, yet remained the scene of fierce political struggles and intrigues. First to be mentioned on this parallel line is Tiberius Claudius Nero, better known as Tiberius. On Octavian's death in 14 AD, he sat on the throne as the second Roman emperor. The son of Livia Drusilla and adopted son of Augustus, Tiberius was an educated and experienced military leader. However, his reign was marred by intrigue and political assassinations. Events occurring during this time, such as the imperial betrayals and Antony North, emphasized the complexities and transitions in Rome's political structure. The relocation of the capital to Capri, the adoption of an alienated image of power, and the mysterious circumstances of his death in 37 CE create a veil of bewilderment around his identity. The next figure is Gaius Caesar Germanicus, known as Caligula. Taking the throne in 37 CE after the death of Tiberius, Caligula begins his reign with relative prosperity. But his personal excesses, gratuitous murders, and bizarre rituals combined with escalating political intrigue, brought him to the brink of madness. The transition from Tiberius to Caligula, accompanied by scandals and highly unusual actions by the latter, emphasizes the complexity of the transition of power from one ruler to another. On the crest of political unrest in the 1st century CE, a factor surfaced that shook Rome at its foundations. The crisis of the Republic, civil wars, and the rise of the empire emphasized the tensions in society. Internal conflicts and power struggles, such as the Spartacus Revolt, 73-71 BC, and social wars, 91-88 BC, threatened unity and created instability. One period of internal division was also associated with the Four Emperors, 69 CE, when Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian vied for the throne. The sudden onslaught of epidemics had an incredible impact on the Roman Empire. In the mid-2nd century CE, an outbreak of the Antonine Plague, also known as the Cilician Plague, 165-180 CE, brought the shadow of death to the great city. The epidemic has been recognized as the progenitor of many diseases, but its exact origin and nature remain a mystery. Rome's majestic economy also faced challenges when a periodic series of economic difficulties began in the 3rd century CE. Hyperinflation, resource scarcity, and military expenditures led to a deterioration in general prosperity. Sealed by history, coin debasements and Diocletian's reforms attempted to contain the economic decline, but this only reflected the complexity of the times. A series of incredible trials began the 3rd century crisis that engulfed the Roman Empire. The period from the assassination of Emperor Alexander Severus in 235 CE to the establishment of the Tetrarchy by Diocletian in 284 CE was marked by political instability, economic collapse, and unrest on the frontiers. This crisis was expressed in periodic revolts, assassinations of emperors, and the breakdown of unified authority. After the crisis of the 3rd century, Diocletian took bold steps toward stabilizing the empire. In 285 CE, he divided the Roman Empire into western and eastern parts, thus creating a more manageable structure. Although this reform provided temporary stability, it manifested cultural, economic, and political differences between the West and the East. However, even with all his energy and efforts, Diocletian faced problems of internal conflicts. In 305 CE, he abruptly abdicated his throne, leaving the political arena. As the Roman Empire moved into the 4th and 5th centuries CE, it faced a gradual buildup of internal and external conflicts, creating an atmosphere of political and social tension. Internal struggles for power became an increasingly acute feature of the political life of the empire. After the death of Constantine the Great in 337 CE, his sons, Constantius II, Constantine II, and Constantius II, entered the central ring of the struggle for the throne. This period, known as the Synod of Constantinople, confronted forces seeking to assert their rule, leading to bloody events and assassinations among members of the imperial dynasty. The following decades were marked by frequent changes of power, internal schisms, and a struggle for survival amidst a terrible political vacuum. As a result of these storms, the empire became increasingly vulnerable to external threats. This culminated in the reign of the Theodosius family. Flavius Theodosius, after defeating the rebels and Goths in 394 AD at Adrianople, became the sole ruler of the Western and Eastern Roman Empire. His death in 395 AD led to the division of the empire between his sons, Arcadius in the east and Honorius in the west. Their reign was marked by internal and external problems, such as conflicts with the Visigoths and eastern tribes. During this time, both parts of the empire faced invasions by various tribes and periods of instability. The deaths of Arcadius in 400 CE and Honorius in 423 CE marked the end of the era of Theodosius's family. These events emphasize the empire's inability to respond effectively to the challenges of the times and its own problems. Spontaneously, power in Rome passed into the hands of barbarian chieftains and Germanic generals, heralding the impending end of classical antiquity. A series of challenges culminated in the barbarian invasions, which reached their climax in the 4th and 5th centuries CE. In 410 CE, the Vandals under Alaric took Rome, marking the first time in 800 years that the city had been invaded by external enemies. In 455 CE, Rome was again attacked by the Vandals, and in 476 CE, the institution of Odoacer ended the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustus, bringing an end to the Western Roman Empire. These events, from the crisis of the 3rd century to the fall of the Western Roman Empire, amounted to a series of moments that gradually brought Rome's greatness to the point of collapse. 476 AD has gone down in history as the year the Western Roman Empire formally ceased to exist. Odoacer, a Germanic warlord, rejected the last emperor, Romulus Augusta, ending thousands of years of Roman history. Despite the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantium, continued to exist for over 1,000 more years. But the world in which it flourished was no longer the one Rome had known in its best days. Thus ended the great epic of the Roman Empire, a civilization that had created and destroyed over the centuries, and its fate served as a lesson in human history.